Okay, good day everyone. Our topic for today will about accounting for treasury shares. But before we proceed to the main discussion, which is the accounting for treasury shares, let us try first to define what treasury shares are. Treasury shares, are entities, own shares that have been issued and then reacquired. Okay? Reacquired but not canceled. Okay? Ibig sabihin po ng definition that these shares are already issued shares, whether it is preferred shares or common shares. However, because it was issued already, no? Okay, the company reacquired that issued shares. During the reacquisition, the intention was not to cancel the shares. Okay? Take note ha, the elements under the definition. Okay, para masabi natin that is a treasury share. Una, it is a shares. The shares must be the entities own shares. Okay? And that shares was originally issued. The shares must have been originally issued. Okay? And then, because it was originally issued to the shareholders, the shares are reacquired by the entity but not cancelled. Okay? Those are the elements that we need to look for in order to recognize whether that shares being reacquired is a treasury share. Una, there that the shares must be the entity's own share. Okay? Entity's own share. The second one, and that the second element is that that share was originally issued already. Ibig sabihin, your own share was already issued or sold to the investors or to the shareholders. Then later, after that issuance, after a certain period of time, that shares were reacquired or are reacquired by the entity who originally issued that shares, but the reacquisition's intention was not to cancel those shares. Kasi pag i-cancel yon, okay, iba na po yon, okay? There is already a retirement of the original shares on that case. Okay? So that is a treasury share. Okay, so now because we already knew what treasury share is, okay, we can now proceed to the accounting of accounting of treasury shares. Okay, treasury shares. Okay, under accounting of treasury shares, guys, okay, ito lang po ang dapat nating alalahanin, that accounting standards, okay, accounting standard expressly recognized the use of cost method. In short, in other words, the accounting standard is encouraging us, no, to use the cost method. Again, I use the term encouraging us to use the encouraging us to use the cost method in accounting of treasury shares, but it does not prohibit us to use other method of accounting treasury shares. There is another method that is used as well on accounting for treasury share, and that is the fair value method. However, under this discussion, I will not focus on the fair value method. Instead, I will focus on cost method because that is the um, method expressly recognized by the accounting standard. Okay? So, cost method. Paano po natin i-apply ang cost method na to? Okay? But before we apply the cost method, I would like to let you know that the treasury shares has three different transactions. Okay, the first transaction is on the reacquisition. Okay, reacquisition. The second one is on reissuance. Okay, and the third one will be the retirement of the retirement of treasury shares. No, una, on the reacquisition of shares, dun po nagkakaroon ng institution of the treasury shares. While on reissuance and retirement of treasury shares, dun po nagkakaroon ng derecognition of treasury shares. Under these three transactions affecting treasury shares, yung masyado pong problematic is on the reissuance and retirement of treasury shares. Considering that we have certain rules or rules, no, to be followed, okay, which I will discuss later. Okay, so to apply cost method for treasury share, okay, let's set an example. Okay, example. Okay, okay, an entity 4,000 shares. Okay, 4,000 ordinary shares were reacquired. Okay, for a a price of 170. The par value of the ordinary shares, okay, is 150 at its original price, no? Okay, take note ha that the entity 4,000 ordinary shares issued, okay, to be specified, no, that 4,000 issued ordinary shares were reacquired for a price of 170. The par value of the ordinary shares issued is 150 per share. So assume, because our focus here is on treasury share, no, I will not focus on the ordinary shares issued. Okay? So how are we going to record the reacquisition of that reacquired of that issued shares, reacquisition? Well, under cost method, yung cost of treasury share must be at its cost. Again, no, the value of the treasury shares or issued shares that were reacquired shall be at its cost. Okay, so paano po natin gagawin yan? Okay, we initially, because we reacquired that, there is value received here, we debit treasury shares, no, we debit treasury shares at its cost. Remember the transaction provided that the reacquisition price is 170, therefore that is the cost of the treasury shares. So if there were 4,000 shares reacquired, we need to multiply it at its cost, which is 170. So the treasury shares must be debited at 100, at 680,000, I mean. And then we will credit cash, cash amounting to 680,000. Yon, that's it, no? That would be our entry on the reacquisition of the ordinary shares issued. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, on the reacquisition, the entity reacquired the shares na inisyo niya before. That is reacquisition. Parang binabawi mo siya. But you are not canceling that issued share. Okay? Parang ganon, no? In layman's term, parang binabawi mo yung shares na inisyo mo na before and then nire-reacquire mo. Okay? That's reacquisition of treasury shares. Okay? Next. Okay. Let's proceed to the reissuance. Kasi on the reacquisition, there is no problem. There is no problem. Kasi all we need to do is to recognize the treasury shares by debiting treasury shares at its cost and crediting the value parted with, whether it's on cash or it's on account. Pero usually, once we reacquire shares, we pay it on cash. Okay? So, our next a problem will be on the reissuance. What if these reacquired shares were reissued? Ano po ibig sabihin ng reissued? 'Di ba? the shares were originally issued. Na-issue mo na siya before and then you reacquire it, binawi mo. Once binawi mo siya, pwede mo siyang i-issue ulit pabalik sa shareholders. That is reissuance, okay? Under reissuance, guys, it can be reissued above cost or below cost, okay? Pwede pong ma-reissue yan above cost or below cost. Ano po ba ibig sabihin ng above cost or below cost? Pag sinabi ko pong above cost of the treasury share. Cost of the treasury share. And then below cost of treasury share. Okay. Sige, let's provide an assumption under reissuance of the treasury shares above its cost or more than the cost of the treasury share. Let us assume, no, let us connect this assumption to the reacquisition na transaction. Okay, for example, no, the reacquisition was 170 and then we reissue that shares at 190. Okay, assuming, no, assuming the reissuance price of the treasury shares is at 190. Okay, at 190 per share. How are we going to recognize or how are we going to prepare an entry for this? Okay, how are we going to prepare an entry for this? Una is that, okay, we need to derecognize the treasury shares at its cost. How are we going to derecognize the treasury shares at its cost? The reissuance of the treasury shares at its cost, we need to credit. Una, mag-credit po tayo ng treasury shares, no? I-credit po natin treasury shares at its cost. Assuming that all 4,000 treasury shares were reissued. So we are going to derecognize that. That is 4,000 multiplied by its cost, which is 170 pesos. That was the cost of the treasury share. And then, because there is a reissuance, assuming binayaran ka ng buyer on the reissuance, okay, you receive cash kasi binayaran ka ng cash. The reissuance will be at 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 its price, at its selling price. So the selling price here was 4,000 multiplied by 190. That would be the debit kasi naka-receive ka ng cash na 4,000 times 190 because that's the reissuance price. Sir, the debit and the credit is not balanced. How are we going to record the difference? Una, pag tignan nyo, no, the cash was 760. The treasury shares cost is 680. Obviously, there is a gain on the reissuance of the treasury shares above cost. However, that gain shall not be recognized as an income. Ibig sabihin, we are not going to recognize, okay, we are not going to recognize the gain as an income. Instead, we are going to recognize it as a share premium, okay, an equity account. Okay, we are going to recognize it as an equity account, share premium, treasury shares, no, that is 760 minus 680,000. Again, no, any excess, okay, of the cost shall not be recognized as an income. Okay, instead, it shall be recognized as a share premium treasury share. Okay, that is the first issue on the reissuance. Okay, how about if it was reissued below cost? Okay, let's us assuming the reissuance price, okay, of the treasury share is at 150. Okay, that is below cost of the treasury share. So obviously we debit, we will debit treasury share, I mean cash amounting to 4,000 multiplied by 150 kasi yun po yung cash na receive natin, and then we will credit treasury shares, no? Treasury shares treasury shares at its cost. The cost of the treasury share is once again 4,000 times 170. That is 680,000. Take note the difference here is 680 versus 600, that's 80,000. On your first glance, there is a loss on the reissue ones because it was issued below cost. Paano po natin i-recognize yung cost? If the gain is um, recognized as a share premium on treasury share, sa loss on the reissuance of treasury share, the order of priority must be followed. Order of priority. Okay? Order of priority ng ano? Of absorption to. Of the order of priority of absorption of the losses incurred in the reissuance. Okay? Take note ha. Meron po tayong order of priority. If there is a loss incurred in the reissuance of the treasury share, the loss shall be absorbed by the share premium. Share premium of what? Of the treasury shares. If my share premium on treasury shares recorded, okay, in the books, the losses shall be absorbed by the share premium treasury share. Sir, what if the share premium treasury share in the books is not enough or insufficient? Parang insufficient niyang i-absorb yung losses. Well, the insufficient, no, or the value that share premium treasury share cannot absorb will be absorbed by the retained earnings. Okay? Take note guys ha. Pag mayroong losses, the share premium on treasury shares, shall first order of priority na dapat i-absorb. Okay? If the share premium on treasury share is not enough, the second priority is the retained earnings unappropriated. Okay? The retained earnings unappropriated. In this case, assuming there is no share premium on treasury shares existing in the books of account, well, the losses incurred on the reissuance of the treasury shares, kasi I assume na wala pong share premium on treasury shares, shall be absorbed by retained earnings. Okay? So, that is a difference of 680 minus 80,000. Pero pag merong share premium on treasury shares, no, siya muna ang mag-absorb and then kung kulang doon, si retained earnings na ang mag-absorb. Sir, pwede po ba yung reissuance is at cost, no, at cost? How about sir if we reissue the treasurer shares at its cost? Ibig sabihin, no, it's not above the cost of the treasury share, it is not below the cost of the treasury share. Pwede po ba yun? Yes, it is in the discretion of the company how they are going to reissue the treasury shares. If they opted to reissue the treasury share at its cost, well, there is no problem na mai-encounter natin. All you need to do is to reverse the reacquisition entry. The reacquisition entry was debit cash, that is debit treasury share, then credit cash. So, if it was reissued at cost, our entry will be simple. We debit cash at its cost, which is 4,000 times 170, then we credit treasury shares. Parang ni-reverse mo lang, no? Yung reacquisition na entry natin. Okay? If the reissuance was made at cost. No? Okay? That is reissuance. Okay? The next transaction that may affect treasury shares is on the retirement. Take note on the retirement, guys, there is the recognition of treasury shares and the same time the recognition of the original shares reacquired. Okay? Magkaiba po ang reissuance and retirement. Kasi on the reissuance, you reissue the ordinary shares or the shares originally issued. On retirement, you do recognize the treasury shares at the same time you do recognize the shares that were originally issued. Yun po ha. Yun po yung pagkakaiba. Okay. Assuming, let's have the first assumption. Sir, what if the retirement happened at cost? At cost. 'Di ba? At cost. At cost lang and at par value of the original issued shares. At par value and origin at cost yung treasury shares and then at par value of the original issued shares. Okay. Ibig sabihin ko po doon, no, once you retire the shares, no, the shares. Okay, the shares. Assuming the original par value, okay, in connection with the example that I have posted on the reacquisition, take note what is the value of the shares. Okay, originally issued, balikan natin nga sa taas, that is 150 and it was reacquired at 170. Okay, sige, yun po yung prices natin, ha. Okay, original, the par value of the shares, par value was 150 and the reacquisition price is 170. So how are we going to prepare an entry if there is a retirement at cost and at par value of the original issued shares? Una, because there is retirement, ibig sabihin, once we retire the treasury shares, we also retire um, the original issued shares. In this case, that is ordinary shares. Okay, we are going to derecognize kasi again, no, upon retirement, once we retire the treasury shares, we also retire the shares originally issued. So the ordinary shares was 4,000 and then its par value is 150,000. Okay, so 150,000, so that is amounting to 600,000 pesos. And then there is reacquisition na value na 170. So the recognition of the treasury share, i-credit natin yan at its cost, that is 4,000 multiplied by 170, that is 680. Sir, there is a difference between the ordinary share par value and the treasury share na 680,000. So, ibig sabihin po, sir, on the retirement, nagkaroon po tayo ng losses. How are we going to recognize the losses on the retirement of the treasury share? Ito, no? Order of priority. Okay, if losses, no, order of priority in losses incurred for the retirement, okay, of treasury shares. Una, okay, the first priority will be the share premium. Share premium of what? Of the original issuance. Ano po ba ibig sabihin ko ng share premium of original issuance? For example, no, in this case, the ordinary shares na 4,000 na reacquire natin, may naka-attach na share premium related to that. For example, no, ordinary shares, when it was originally issued, you debit cash, you credit ordinary shares, and then may related na share premium on the original issuance. That share premium must be the first priority that will absorb the losses. Okay, yun po yung ibig sabihin nun. Bakit yun po yung unang mag-absorb? Kasi kung ano yung puno, okay, pag i-recognize mo, putulin mo ang puno, puputulin mo rin yung bunga. Okay, the share premium is a fruit of the issuance of the ordinary share. Sir, what if the share premium of the original issuance wala? Ibig sabihin, nung I originally issued that shares, wala pong share premium related to that share that I issued. Sino po ba ang mag-absorb? The second priority will be a share premium pa rin. Okay? Share premium pa rin, pero share premium of the treasury shares. Again, no, unang mag-absorb the losses, the share premium of original issuance. Kung wala pong share premium of original issuance, sunod pong mag-absorb is the share premium of treasury shares. Sir, what if in the books wala po akong share premium of original issuance, wala din po akong share premium on treasury shares, sino po ba ang mag-absorb? Well, the last priority is the retained earnings. Okay? Retained earnings. Okay? Yan po yung last priority. Sir, in this case, in your example, sino po ang saan po natin yan i-absorb? Assuming there is no share premium on original issuance, there is no share premium on treasury share, well, we will recognize it. The loss will be absorbed by retained earnings, okay? amounting to amounting to 80,000 pesos. Ayun. Okay, again, no? If the okay? If the reissuance, I mean the retirement was made at cost and the cost is above par. Okay? It was above par. Okay, the losses shall be recognized. Okay, the losses shall be absorbed first by the share premium original issuance. Then if the share premium original issuance is not enough, we will it will be absorbed by the share premium treasury shares. If both share premium are not enough, it will be absorbed by retained earnings. Sir, what if naman, o second assumption naman tayo, what if the par value of the shares, assuming the par value of the shares, okay, of the par value of the shares is 190, okay, and then the reacquisition price, okay, is 170. Obviously, based on par value and the reacquisition price, meron na pong gain na 20 per share if there is a retirement. How are we going to recognize the gain? Well, ganito lang po ang gagawin natin on the retirement. Well, ordinary shares, that is assuming 190 yung par, we have 4,000 times 190, that is 760, di ba? Lipat lang po natin, 4,000 times 190, that is 760, and then we recognize the treasury share at its cost, shares at its cost, which is 4,000 shares multiply by 170. Obviously, meron po tayong difference na magkano kaya difference ng debit at credit. 760 minus 680. If there is a gain of 80,000, how are we going to recognize it? Once again, as the rule says, okay, there is no gain to be recognized under income account. Instead, it will be recognized under an equity account named as share premium treasury shares. Okay? If the retirement of the treasury share, again, no, if the retirement of the treasury share will gain an income, okay, that income shall not be recognized as an income, or it will not be recognized under the element of an income account. Instead, it will be recognized under the element of equity account. So those are the most common scenarios, okay, in affecting the treasury share account. Okay, so again, treasury shares are entities' own shares that have been issued and then reacquired but not cancelled, and as accounting standards expressly provides, that cost method of accounting shall be used on the reacquisition, retirement, and reissuance of treasury shares. So that ends my discussion for today on the accounting for treasury shares.